Safety. It's a big thing in the workshop. If you don't feel safe doing something or you just don't feel comfortable, don't do it. You're the only person who can keep you safe. And if you don't do it, no one else can.
Hey friends and fellow woodturners, Richard Ford here, coming to you from Nova Scotia, Canada. Well, it's mid-November. We've had snow, it's cold. Not a lot of snow, but winter's coming. And I expect, like a lot of you, turning a bowl starts with the sound of a chainsaw. Well, a neighbour of mine cut down a large poplar tree recently. He says it's a silver poplar, I'm not sure, but it was a large tree and it has some beautiful hardwood in the centre, beautiful colour. The only problem with it being a large tree and an old tree is that it stands alone, not in a forest full of trees, you know, and it suffers from wind shake. Right in the middle of that tree, that hardwood, which looks so beautiful in colour, has separated between the layers here, and pieces, it's no good at all for a bowl, no good for anything. Pieces will come out. So you have to be very careful, look very closely. I saw it was there and I was able to be very careful and stand out of the way just in case a piece came out. No, it didn't come out in the lathe. I gave it a little tap with my palm of my hand and out it came. And unfortunately, a lot of the pieces off this tree are in the same condition. However, this is part of a crotch here, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to show you how I turn bowls. I haven't really changed this method for quite a few years now. Same method I use for a long time. And in order to follow this method, and if you want to try this method, you have to be sure. I'm only showing you the way I do it. I'm not telling you to do it this way. But if you want to try this way, you have to be sure that your tailstock and your headstock are not going to move. They have to lock down onto the bed very firmly. I'm fortunate to have a Powermatic here, and it works super. And it's especially true with this method because what I use is a faceplate with some MDF in a circle and some a sanding disc glued onto the MDF. And what this gives me is a drive. It's a way to stop the wood from moving and to drive it. So I just will spin this onto the headstock and I'll move the camera a little bit so you can see that better, and hopefully, oh yeah, there, just spin this onto the headstock, there, and I'm going to hold it against here with the tailstock and a live center. Now I've removed the point from the live center, just tap that out, not needed for this, and because it's such soft wood too, it can tend to make it break. Now, they say the start of a bowl often is started with a chainsaw, and you'll split the log down the middle and chunk it around as best you can with a chainsaw. I actually made this one round on the bandsaw afterwards, a little rounder, just so there's a little less material for me to hump off of it. And the other thing you need to do, it's a good idea to do, is to remove the bark from the center where you're going to have your live center pushing against it. Bark is awfully soft and not a safe thing to. But as soon as you get through the bark and you're into the solid wood, it'll work fine. The bark comes off easy, take it all off. It's coming off anyway. Where's the middle of this thing? Not quite sure. Take a set of dividers. See if we can figure it out. Come this way a bit. Yeah, that's pretty much the center, I would say. So, I'll put a little circle around that. Square anyway. So that. I know where to put the live center onto it. Okay. You have to be careful where the banjo is. If the diameter is great enough, here it's not a problem because the banjo will go underneath it easily. But I have mounted a few in the past where I've got them mounted, the banjo's over on the wrong side. So you have to do it again. It's going to be just about there. Maybe better lock tailstop in position and bring that in and take a look. Now I'm getting a bit of a guide here from the edge of the faceplate, and I can see that it needs to go down this way a little bit. Yeah, it's pretty round now. And the other thing you need to do is look at the gap you have between the faceplate, and there's always going to be a gap somewhere. And this one was chainsawed very badly by me. Try and even up the gap. That's here. Yeah, it's about even. And tighten it up. And now, as I say, it's very important that the tailstock and the headstock don't move, because the only thing that's holding it is the pressure between them against this faceplate. Now, of course we don't want to go too fast either. Oh, 260 RPM. We're just going to have it at about 45 degrees. And we'll start on the corner here. When you're starting off, it's good to give it a tighten periodically, because it will embed itself in there. And running fairly true, so we're up at 450 now. it off. And make sure that it clears before you start it up. And check that it's tight. It will continue to embed itself in there. This is wet, soft wood. This is a push cut and I'm rubbing the bevel. So you'll notice that as soon as you have full contact, a circle that you're cutting, and you're rubbing the bevel, it smooths right out. You're not fighting it. We're just at the point where that'll be the rim of the bowl, actually, up in that area. Get up the speed a little. $720. Now I normally like to keep it down below 1,000 because there's a theory that if it's below 1,000 and it did come out, it will go down, it won't fly into the air. So, not that I know that's right, but hoping it's right. Not always possible to rub the bevel, so when you can, what I would tend to do is just hit it. Until I get back to the... Have a look, see if we've got... Well, we've got voids here. I'm going to go deeper there. It's going to be a very shallow bowl, this. It won't be very deep, I'm afraid. I'll just flatten off the bottom now, I think. Further take more of that unbalance out of it. To go further. It will be shallow. Shallow bowls can be nice. have a look. Maybe not. Now, chucks. I have two chucks that I use. Most of the time, that's mainly two chucks that I use. They're both one way, and they both have tower jaws on them. And these are the big diameter tower jaws. I don't know the number, but the beauty of these jaws is that they have a dovetail on the end here. And the dovetail has each jaw has two lobes on it. So that means that no matter what the diameter that you turn your dovetail, there's going to be 8 places of contact, right? 8 points of contact. So you don't have to worry about the exact size that you're turning your dovetail, but you do have to know what size to turn it. And this is the smaller set, exactly the same, and they're made the same with 2 lobes on each dovetail. Today we'll be using the bigger one. So now, what diameter there. So I have a tool here, and on the bottom are 3 magnets. And those 3 magnets will sit on my tailstock here and hold it on there. And on the other end here, that's the diameter for my big set of jaws, and that's the diameter for my small set of jaws. So it's a neat little rig. You just put it on, the magnets hold it there, and I have a guide to the diameter I want to go to. Yeah, pretty neat, eh? A half-inch bolt out to clean that up, that dovetail up. Get the dovetail nice and square in the corner. And there's my diameter set by this. Off with the magnets. Hang it back up. So we're all set. So we're pretty close now to where we want to be. We'll just do a little pull cut with a shear there, using a half-inch bowl gouge. That is tight. Oh, I'm getting sprayed with water here. If I stand in line with it, I'm getting hit with water. We're only roughing it out at this point, so now we'll turn it around and we'll use the chuck to hold the tenon. Put a nice flat on here and a nice sharp dovetail in there. I'm going to chisel that lump off. Left sticking out here. There. A little hammer and a little chisel. So now when it's dried, in several months down the road, and I remount it, I've got a good guide here to where the center was. I'll use this again, or sometimes I just use the chuck have the chuck mounted that will fit inside the blank, and hold it with the live center again, get it true, so this is running as true as possible, and then clean it up. Then turn it and clean up the tenon, then turn it round and put it in the chuck again. So we'll mount the chuck. Bunch of wood chips in my chuck, threads. There. Now, if we got it right, it will fit. If we didn't, it won't. Oh, lucky that, it fits nice. And I usually bring this up, put a little pressure on it, and the other thing I'll do is set it so that the face grain or the end grain, one of them, is sitting right on the gap in the jaws. What that does is give me a similar configuration where the jaws clamp, you know, it's not all end grain on one jaw and side grain on the other. There. Now I have another little tool here. It's just a little extension for my live center that threads onto the live center, onto the 3/4 inch threads that are on it. Both the Powermatic and the one-way live center have 3/4 inch thread on it there, and that allows me to keep a little pressure up against the bowl, really secure it in the chuck while we're taking these rough cuts here. First thing, we'll make it flat. So we're still at 720. Only a little piece, but good to wear your face shield, just in case. That seems awful rough. Oh yeah, we got a gap from the, you can see the shape of the chainsaw in there. Okay, we're getting there. I think the old switch to the 1/2 inch there. 1/2 inch a little sharp, I think. A little bit of pith from a branchlet here. A little crack in it. Not quite down to depth here yet, very close. Now, if this beautiful kind of heartwood, if this were a bigger, deeper bowl, I would probably core the center out and get another bowl out of it, but it's such a shallow little thing here, I'm not going to bother. So what we do now is we check we're still tight in the jaws of the chuck. Tighten up a touch because wood does compress, especially this wet new wood. We can take this away now. We've taken out all the bumpy stuff from the uneven surface. We can do. We'll remove the extension. And we'll remove the live center. So we don't have anything sharp here for my elbow. Come against. Now we'll just hunk out the middle here. Now these grooves that I made were kind of on purpose because they'll give me a guide to rest the bevel on for taking out the middle. Just take your time when you get into the middle because it's traveling a lot slower in there. The speed of the wood going by the cutter is a lot slower in the middle than the outside. I'll just check the depth quickly because it is such a shallow bowl. And we're roughing out, I'd say maybe a quarter of an inch more, that's all we need in the middle. I'm going to leave it roughly 10% thickness of the diameter. Diameter is about 10 inches, or 11 and a half. So if it was 10 inches, we'd want it an inch thick. It's 11 and a half, so we want it a little bit over an inch. Inch and an eighth would be good, you know, somewhere around there. So we want just over an inch on the outside here. When a bowl dries, it warps, it shrinks and stretches, and it will go oval. And so we're looking for right out on the rim here, about an inch and a little bit. About there. And if we have an inch and a little bit here, we can have a little bit less than an inch in the thickness. So how do we judge that? I always look at where my jaws are, the face of the jaws. And when I'm finishing it, that's where I sort of tend to think the bottom is going to end up somewhere close to that. And, you know, it's a relation to that anyway. So you need to know how deep you are, otherwise you can make a funnel. Now we're a little bit less than an inch in depth here in the middle, but we need to take more out just here. So maybe it's time to switch. Well, we'll do it with the other one. Switch it back around to the end I use for doing the bottom of the bowl. Now, this is not a conventional shape. It's more like a ball, or I grind it like a ball really, because I want to be able to rub the bevel and go right down into the... So the easy way for me to do it, I use a belt sander, I grind it on the belt sander just like that with a rotary motion, just like that. Simple, very simple, all done by hand. And then, well, if it's sharp enough, we'll see how well it cuts. If not, we'll have to sharpen it. So. Help it a little bit, bring that in, so we don't have quite as much overhang. Pick up the cut again, push that in. I'll sharpen it, I think. Yeah, not much to it. You can see it's like a ball shape on the end, that's how I always think of it. But it works very well. You just have to have two gouges. That's the only problem. So the double-ended one, big help. We're getting into bumps and bumps here. We're staying fairly parallel. We'll reveal all here. Oh yeah. Oh, just about perfect. Need to take a little more here. As most of you bolt turners know, there's a spot here that my friend calls the devil's elbow. And this round tool helps me get around there without getting any sort of catches and things. Now, doesn't seem to want to go across there nicely. So, I have a nice little negative rate scraper here that will handle that quite well. Really bumpy. Don't know why. Have a look at that. Yeah, it's very wet, very soft. Check the tight. Yeah, good and tight. Change the speed a little bit. up to about 900. Nice little. Certainly good enough for roughing out drawing. Nice little accent with this colour, but there is a crack here. I'm going to put a little thin CA glue in that, try and hold the crack together. But other than that, I think we're there. Oh yeah. What I'm doing is looking at the gap that's this side. If I keep that side pressed against it, these calipers will have a spring, so I always want to have a gap here. Oh, am I going the right way? No, I'm going the wrong way. On your widest part you want a little gap, and then you can just judge the size of the gap on the rest of it. So this is the narrowest part is out here, and the bigger gap is in the middle here, so that means it's that much thinner in the middle. About 1/8 of an inch thinner here than it is here. Sort of. This will go oval, but the back sort of, although it does expand and contract, it doesn't really move out of position as much as the outside edge. So that's just about perfect. Okay, the next thing is to put it away and dry it. I'll use my face shield for this bit. Okay, get rid of some of these shavings. That's one thing about mold turning, you end up with lots of shavings. Okay, and there it is, all set. See, when I come back to mount this, I will just bring up the centre here against the chuck jaws like that. Position it and hold it with the live centre. Spin it round, get it true, because you can move it, you know, to get it so that the gaps on the two sides that have gone narrow are roughly equal, so you've got it centred then, and the gaps on the two sides that are long are equal too, you know. So it's running true. When it's nice and dry, you'll I'll clean this up, and I'll probably turn the outside, finish turning the outside, and I'll finish this shape, and then when I turn it around and put it in the jaws, I now am just taking it to the thickness I want, and I've got the shape established on the outside. There. We have one ready to dry. We need to write on it what it is, because we'll never remember. Poplar, and it's November 2018. Poplar, November 2018. Okay. Now, I seal I seal the end grain with a with anchor seal normally, but at the moment I'm using trying a new thing because it's cheaper, and this is Wall Pro. It's a PVA based sealer for walls, and I bought this in Kent for around $20, I think, including the tax, I think. Whereas the anchor seal is a lot more expensive than that. And I've been experimenting with this, and I find it pretty good so far. Haven't had a long time use with it, but seems to do the job. So what do? I seal the end grain, and the reason is that I want to slow down the moisture coming out of the end grain so that it comes out of the end grain the same as it comes out of the side grain. So if you look at your bowl and you get a clue as to where the end grain is, if you look on the end, it's where the rings are. And what I'll do is take a triangle like this out over the end grain, and on the other side, because this being a crotch, not easy, but you want to seal the end grain anyway. If in doubt, seal the whole thing. It's only going to slow it down, it's not going to stop it. So I tend to seal the tenon end grain. I leave a little patch on the side grain for the moisture to come out of easier. Again, here we're going to seal the end grain into the middle. It's not an exact science. So usually do the rim all the way around there. That's it. That's what I do, and then I put it in a bag, a paper bag. Can you see that? Yes, big old paper bag here, the kind you use for putting leaves in. And I put the bowl in. There's a couple in there already. And I cover it in wet shape. And I set it aside. Now, periodically, you want to stir it up, let the air change inside, but mainly you want to keep it in the dark, out of the wind, and just let it dry slowly, and it will dry in about, in Nova Scotia here, probably 2 months in that bag in my workshop here. If I have to put it out in an outside shed with no heat, it might take a little longer. Not normally a problem for me, because I'll show you.
After a while, you see my drying rack up against the roof there. In my shop here. So as long as you kind of keep feeding the pile as fast as you take stuff out, I've got bowls up there that have been up there 10 years. So if you're looking to make something out of a piece of wood immediately, then you can turn it wet and turn it thin, so that when it dries it just warps. It doesn't crack, and you'll get some very unusual shapes, and some people really like that. Can be quite nice. So that's my little tutorial on how I turn wet bowls. Eventually it dries,
Some people put them in kilns and dry them quite fast. One guy recently I saw is using bins of rice, drying them in rice. Now we all know rice dries cell phones, and it seems to dry bowls quite fast too, as long as the rice is dry. Well, you can always heat it up to dry it, I guess. And the same idea I think would hold true, is that it's not that I want to slow down the drying by painting it. It's that I want to make the drying speed even on the end grain and the side grain. And as long as it dries evenly, the stresses in the bowl will be more even and it's less likely to crack. So looking at this one here, this is from 2007. This is an old Popular, made from Popular too. Nice and dry now, 2007 to 11 years ago. Turn this one. And back then, I was sealing the end grain, I can see, but I was using melted candles. And I would just paint, I'd melt, you know, a bunch of old candles in some heat, in a pan, and just paint it on the ends. And in this case it worked fine, because all you're doing is trying to slow down that drying. So now the next phase is, we'll pretend we're in the future sometime, and that one I just turned is dry, and it's this one. So I'll turn this one in the next video as if it was the one I just turned and it was dry. So we'll see you then. Hope you found this interesting. See you later. Bye now.